For those of you who haven't met me as yet, I'm Monique. I'm a London-based advisor, and I work with entrepreneurs to help them start and grow consumer-led businesses. And Jennifer found out last year that I'd written an opinion piece on company culture and employee engagement and asked me to speak to you today. You'll be happy to know it's probably the shortest presentation of the whole 2 days, because I know you're probably all hungry for lunch. I know I am. And also, I much prefer to hear your views and share ideas rather than talk at you. So I only really have a couple of slides. So I did a quick Google as I was researching my subject, and when you type into Google, our employees are everything, 140,000 results come up. So 140,000 businesses make that part of their mission statement, which I think is quite something. My experience from reality and working as an advisor actually is that this is anything but true. So people talk about it, but actually don't do it. And I think particularly in the food industry, where customers are on the receiving end of good or bad service, this is actually something that a lot of companies don't get right at all. Less than a third of employees are engaged in their job and workplaces. I think that's quite shocking, really, if you think about that a third of the people that we employ actually aren't really engaged in the business that they're representing. And particularly in our sector, turnover can be as high as 31%, which I joined the focus group this morning talking about talent, and it is clearly, as Hilary pointed out, something that we're all struggle with. And the cost, I don't know if any of you in this room can put a cost to it, but obviously that's a direct cost of replacing people, and then the indirect cost of inducting them, not only in money, but also in time, and I think it's considerable. So, if this wasn't enough, now what other reasons are there why you should care? Now, I realise this is quite UK focused, because of course not all of you are going to be affected by Brexit, but I think that definitely in the UK is a real concern. We already have a skill shortage, and it will only be made worse by Brexit. 4.5% of the workforce in the hospitality sector now are vacant, which is quite something. And then some more positive stats there. 44%, now people who are engaged are 44% more productive than just people who are satisfied, and inspired people are 125% more productive, which I think is quite amazing. So what's the opportunity? Because when there is a downside, there's of course also a flip side, and an opportunity to actually crack this and make a difference. And it's actually not rocket science. I think from the businesses that I work with, what I've learned is that actually if you take a systematic approach to identifying what your company values are and really doing that from start to end, then actually it's not really that difficult. And there are huge uptakes across the business on all levels. So here are some ideas on how, in the business that I work with, we go about it. Actually, I'm quite interested to hear quickly, who do you admire in this sector? Now, who do you think are doing a pretty good job? That sounds great. I did a little bit of research preparing this presentation, and I had a look at the Sunday Times top 100 best companies to work for. I don't know if any of you look at that, and the results have just come out, and Hawksmoor are quite high up there, but even higher are the Alchemists. I don't know if Simon is here still today. Ah, there you are. And actually we talked about it, I think yesterday or the day before, so that's I think amazing. Big round of applause. So other companies which I think are doing a good job are Dishoom. Don't know if any of you are familiar with that. Itsu, Pret-a-Manger, and outside the sector, the John Lewis Partnership and Waitrose, Soho House Group, where I'm a member. I think they get a lot of things right. And I think those are all examples of businesses which are successful businesses as well. So I think it's a demonstration that doing things right internally definitely has an effect on how successful your business is. So here are some ideas of how I go about helping people, embed this in their organization. So be really clear on your business values. Ashley talked yesterday about family, respect, reward, teaching. I mean, those are some values that are clearly important to his business, but other people will have other values. Communication, I think, is super important and becomes more challenging as the business grows. It's kind of easy when the business is small as a leader to be engaged and know people and be able to have personal conversation. But as the business grows, you really need to put systems in place. And I think face-to-face there's no substitute for that. And I think leaders have to prepare themselves for repeating themselves a lot of the time. So probably nothing surprising on that list. When it comes to engagement, I think induction is one thing that's very often overlooked. So often in hospitality, people are thrown in at the deep end, and I think it's a real shame and a waste of a really opportunity to hook people and to really engage them with your business. Personal development. Somebody said yesterday it's like a giant game of chess where you have all these pieces that you need to move around. We talked a lot this morning about general managers and how important it is to particularly keep really good operators, but that in this industry a lot of people actually don't want to be operational, they want to move into a head office role. How do we actually keep these people and make them happy and satisfied to stay in these operational roles that they are good at? Now, we didn't come to an answer, but it's something that clearly occupied a lot of people. Paid performance bonuses, I think particularly for frontline staff, focused on service is a very, very, very powerful mechanism. Fun, as in team events, doing things, creating a bit of a family feel. And then last but not least, which I think is almost the most important thing in this business, is creating engaging leaders. And one thing that stuck in my mind from yesterday was, and I think it was Robin who said it, what we need in this business are tribal warriors. Do you remember that? Maybe I'm the only one who remembers it, but it really stuck in my mind. We need extraordinary people who are people and who can really get people behind them and to engage with them and work for them. And I think that's probably almost the hardest thing that as an industry we have to crack, to create engaging leaders. So over to you. I'm curious to hear how you do things in your business. I know Simon and I talked yesterday about communication, and one thing that he said they have created over the years is an online magazine where the content is actually produced by members of staff and creators, which seems to be working really well. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Simon.
At a lower level?
Yeah, great.
That's it, really?
Yeah. And it's monthly, I think you said, isn't it?
Sorry?
Comes out monthly, I think you said.
Yeah, it's a monthly magazine, an online version, so it's very accessible. It's geared to people's smartphones, so they can read it on the way to work or on breaks, and it's very interactive as well. It's been a really good tool for us.
I know that Soho House Group, and some of you may know as well, they have their own magazine called Cook House, and it's for staff, it's created by staff, although I think there is an editor who will pull it all together. And I often pick up a copy, and if I didn't know, if I was looking for a job, I actually would think, I'd love to work there, because it seems so much fun and so cool. They do so many amazing things, and trips to suppliers and so on. So yeah, I think those kind of tools can be really, really powerful in engaging people, and it can be done the more luxurious way, like they do at Soho House Group, or more hands-on and get the team involved. Anybody else wants to share something worth getting out, what they do and what works for them, what they've learned? Nope. I was joking earlier with Sasha and said, maybe I should do a few cartwheels on the stage to get people engaged. And she said she was going to challenge me, but she hasn't, so I don't think I will. No takers? You're all thinking about lunch. Ah, there you go. Thank you.
I once partnered with Danny Meyer's group in New York, and he's done a lot of books about hospitality and how you get, to a real empathy with your staff. And he empowers his staff in order to make marvelous moments that they can go beyond what their normal job roles are. He also does every single company induction. So every Friday, anyone who's new, he goes and personally speaks to them. And there's a fantastic culture around all of his restaurants. And now, interestingly, he's involved in the whole initiative to try and get tips off the saying to people, we don't want people to pay tips, we want to pay them the correct amount from day one, and doing that. So charging more in prices, but making sure the staff are well incentivized. But if you ever want to read his book, it's called Setting the Table. It's absolutely everything about what hospitality should be and how you should treat your people.
And what I like about what you're saying is that it's all very straightforward and simple. There's nothing complicated or costly about it, is there? It's kind of basic good practice and being a decent human being and treating other people decently. So I think that's what's great about it. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, can you hear me? Okay.
Hi.
Sorry, firstly, endorse that point about Setting the Table, superb book. Disney's an organisation that I really admire, particularly the theme parks themselves. And I think one of the things they do very well is part of that, even before induction, at the recruitment stage, is being absolutely crystal clear about what your role is, what will be expected of you, what reward and recognition there is. I was surprised when I learned a lot about Disney World in Florida. They are a minimum wage payer for many roles in the park, and yet guess what? They have hundreds of people applying. So I think that's really, really key. And the only other point I would make was just to make learning and development something you truly recognise and reward, so have awards, have prizes for people who develop the next generation of leaders. So really encourage succession and make a thing of it. When people do it, shout about it, exaggerate it, make it a big thing in the organisation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think picking up on that point, another thing that I think, again, is not rocket science, is to actually link pay to learning. So if you learn a bit more and you acquire a few more skills, you can get a bit paid a little bit more. And it can be very incremental, but it's a very powerful motivator, because a lot of people, especially at team member level, what matters most to them, in my experience, is cash in their pocket. So even a small increase on their hourly wage, can go a long, long way. Sorry to make you run around.
Hello, Monique.
Hi.
I thought I'd share a couple of things that we do at a local level here in Dubai.
Okay. Thank you.
We, in terms of communication, a bit like Simon, we have something called the Weekly Buzz, which is not only about marketing material, but about awards, events, funny things going on. And it's written in a really engaging way and very pictorial. But some of the things we've done as a team, we set stretch targets, which are structured and communicated, and basically it's just a flat 5% over target, front of house and back of house. We'll get that divided up between them, and we do it on a monthly basis. We've done things like have spin classes together as a group. I'd just like to say we've actually moved our employee engagement measured by AON anonymously 7% in the last 2 years in a challenging environment. We don't have big budgets, small team building events. We recently introduced an in-house beverage program, and my operations director took the top 10 performers on a high-end bar crawl. We took them places like Zuma and places where they could never actually afford to go, because we wanted to reinforce their learning. And it's just doing little things like this that are entwined with their job, may be enjoyable, and they're not massive budget-busting things. And just a couple of little ideas we've shared. So play together, stretch targets, communication, reinforce learning through experiencing what the guests experiences, so they understand what they can do in delivering these magical moments. I think these small things, I don't think it has to be about big budgets all the time, or very, very corporate structured bonuses. And as leaders, we have the power to do it. It's sometimes just stepping back, and I'm sitting here listening thinking, I probably should look a little bit more at what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, because I get tied up in other things. So I hope that helps some of the people here, and I've enjoyed listening to some of the things.
Actually, that's reminded me of one thing that we do in some of the businesses I work with. We actually have a team member, who is kind of social ambassador, and he or she canvasses the kind of thing that people want to do, because it's very easy to make assumptions about what you think your team wants to do, and it's actually much more powerful and more effective to let them come to you, and they may actually want to do different things than you think they want to do. I mean, I think one example is Christmas, where the assumption is, you want to sit down for a meal with people, but actually they much prefer to go to Bounce or Fight Club or a place like that where they can be doing something whilst they're having a drink and having fun with their colleagues. So, and it's very simple, and the person responsible loves it because it's a very positive and up kind of thing to do. It's part of their personal development, and it takes a load of the manager's plate because they don't have to worry about it. So yeah, it can be super simple. I think it's really about understanding what makes your employees tick and yeah, working with that. Anybody else? Okay, time is up. Thank you.